What's up, everyone? I hope you all are ready to have a fantastic week in the markets. We have some exciting things to go over in today's video, and as you probably already seen by the title, we have an $8.8 million trade. It's pretty crazy, it's pretty unique, and you're going to want to stick around for it. And just so you guys know, Tom will not be with us in today's episode. He is having a baby, and they are doing the gender reveal today. So he'll be back with us tomorrow. With that being said, let's jump right into today's episode. So looking at the markets over the past couple of weeks, the markets have been just inching higher and higher and higher, and things are starting to get like a little bit choppy, right? Like on Thursday last week, that was not a good day in the markets. That sell-off was pretty dang violent right here. But, you know, the market recovered pretty well on Friday. And what's so interesting is right now, we are in like the heart of earnings season, if that makes sense. We can see July 31st is like the most action-packed earnings week that we have of all earnings season, and that should be no surprise considering we have powerhouses like Apple, Amazon, AMD, PayPal, Shopify, Coinbase, Block, DraftKings, Starbucks, like the list goes on and on and on of all these powerhouses that are set to report. And it's like, yeah, of course there's huge companies like Amazon and Apple and AMD and PayPal and Shopify and all these other ones that steal the show, but it's like, you cannot ignore these other stocks that have potential for huge moves that even though they might not be as big, they're still pretty explosive. Like, you know, Robinhood's one right there, Unity, DraftKings, like just look on the list. It's pretty crazy. So we have a hell of an earnings schedule this week. Take your pick in terms of what stock you want to watch because there's a lot reporting. A stock that I will be watching very closely is DraftKings. You guys know I love this stock for the long term, and they've been moving pretty good to the upside lately. DraftKings has been just on a tear ever since the beginning of this year. It went from like $10 to now it's over $32. But there's nothing wrong with even looking at other stocks too. Like even Robinhood, I know they'll get like a lot of hype and that sort of things. And, you know, as well, of course, Robinhood has been all over the place ever since they IPO'd. They have highs of around $85 a share, and they kind of been stuck in the mud because they're like around 12 right now. But hey, any big news can have some pretty insane moves for any of these stocks reporting earnings. But the biggest thing to take away is these big tech stocks like Apple, Amazon, and AMD, because if those go bad, the market, it'll be a bad sign because, you know, big tech stocks like Apple and Amazon and AMD, they have such a large influence on the market, and if those stocks fall on earnings, it can make it very easy for the market overall to drop. And what's interesting is, like, so far with earnings season, we've seen, like, relatively mixed results. Like, Microsoft didn't really have too great of an earnings reaction. Tesla didn't really have too great of an earnings reaction. Netflix didn't really have too great of an earnings reaction. Meta had a pretty decent reaction, but it wasn't anything, like, insanely crazy, you know? So these big tech stocks will be very, very important this week. Another thing worth noting is the schedule of this week, of course, and there's nothing like too crazy, but we do have some unemployment data coming out on Friday, so that's definitely interesting. I can't believe we're in August already. It's weird to say this. August 1st is on Tuesday. This year just flew by, but yeah, that's the schedule for this week. One thing to be aware of and a little bit scared of is the VIX level right now and where it is usually or how it normally performs in the later half of the year. So we can see on this chart right here, the red line represents the VIX right now, and the gray lines represent the VIX seasonality or averages over like around the past 32 years. So most of the time, VIX does trend higher towards the end, or I should say this part of the year, and if the VIX is trending higher, that's bad news for the market overall. So I think it'll ultimately all depend on how earnings goes, you know, with these big tech stocks, but that is just another thing to keep in mind. Now, to ease some nerves a little bit, there is some decently good news with the, I guess you could say, statistics going back 95 years in this case. So essentially what we're seeing right now is through the first 143 trading days of the year, we are currently in the 13th best run, which is great to see over the past 95 years. The market is up 19.3% in the first 143 trading days, and we can see as we look through other historical examples, whether it be you could say 2019 or even as far as back as 1933 or 1954 and 1936. Most of the time, the market continues to run up. Like, there have only been a couple examples in history in this situation where it's like the market ended lower in, the remaining part of the year. And that would be like 1983, and that was only a 3.2% drop. 1943, which would be a 1.8% drop. 1933, which would be a 0.8% drop. But 1987 was something you kind of want to look away from, because that was a 20% drop. But again, there was a lot of macroeconomic things going on at that time as well. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, if the market runs up a lot in the, we would call first 143 trading days, a lot of times it continues to run up even higher. So keep that in mind going forward. But I think like the biggest thing and like my prediction in this situation is like, we have stocks up a shit ton right now, right? Excuse my language, but so many stocks are up a ridiculous amount. Like, of course, Nvidia is an easy one to name, considering it went from like 108 all the way up to 480 in such a short period of time. But there have been a lot of situations like that and stocks like that over the past year. Now, if we look through a lot of different historical data points, it points to the market just going higher in these situations, right? I've looked at many examples like this, and a lot of, statistics are leading towards the market going higher. But what's interesting is that, you can have the market go higher, but also have a pullback sprinkled in there. So, like, for example, it's while it is only August, we do have a couple months towards the end of the year, and I think it's pretty realistic to see the market, hold up just fine by the end of the year. But I do think there's a pretty good chance we will see a pullback on the market right now, just for multiple reasons, and especially if these earnings are a little bit rocky, which they have been this quarter, or the earnings reactions, I should say. I think we definitely can see a pullback. So I'm definitely looking at some hedge plays. There are a lot of different ways to hedge and protect yourself if the market goes down, and it ultimately depends what you're holding. Like, for example, if you're holding gold, you're going to protect yourself in a much different way than if you're holding Nvidia that you bought at like $470 a share. Like, those are two completely different things. But generally speaking, like, playing SQQQ, that one always gives me a tongue twister, all the Qs, but SQQQ, like SPXS, VXX, UVXY, all of these things, or I should say stocks, pop up quite a bit when the market goes down, So, keep these in your back pocket, I should say, if you do want to protect yourself. And of course, there's nothing wrong with grabbing some boring plays like gold or silver or stuff like that too. So definitely keep that in mind. But let's crack right open into the favorite setups for tomorrow. One stock I'm watching very closely is Lucid, this crazy EV stock. Long story short, it has been running pretty well since like the middle to end of June, and it's trying to go for another breakout right here. So it's just under 750. It actually has some resistance right around 770, but if it breaks above like that 770 area and some good volume flows in, I think we could definitely see a retest like that $8 level, and then maybe even closer to like $8.30. But definitely keep a close eye on this one. This thing has some pretty great moves. As we could see on Friday, it popped by like 8.5%. So definitely keep a close eye on this one. It's a pretty good stock to trade. It's one I'll be watching pretty closely. Another stock I'll be watching pretty closely this week is Alibaba. Crazy Chinese stock. This stock ran up by 5% on Friday. Had a great run. This one, a lot of times, just moves with like other China stocks, of course, but also when there's like good volume flowing in, this thing could have some monster days. So I'm going to be watching this one pretty closely to the upside as well. So feel free to keep that on your watch list. But it is now time for the momentum plays for tomorrow. And with the first one, we have Intel to the upside, and this stock had a great day on Friday, popping by 6.6%. You don't see days like that out of Intel. If you look at some of its competitors like AMD or Nvidia or stuff like that, you could see monster days, but Intel, it struggles quite a bit to have moves like this. So, and also Intel, we have some exciting news for, so make sure to stick around for that towards the end of the video. But with Intel for tomorrow, let's get the levels on that. You would want Intel to break above the $37.63 level. If it breaks above that, we're watching it for calls. With the next one, we have Tilray. This stock has been inching higher as well. As long as this one has volume, it could have some great days. We will want this one to rip above the $2.33 mark. This stock's very crazy, so if you do trade it, you got to be prepared for the heat. Otherwise, don't even touch it. And with the last one, we have Microsoft, and this one is actually to the downside. If it breaks below the 334 level, I will be watching this one for puts. So those are the crazy momentum plays for tomorrow. But it is now time for the, what we'll call, setup that everyone is waiting for. As you guys can see in the title, we have an $8.8 million trade for tomorrow. And this trade is with none other than Intel. Crazy stock, Intel. I wouldn't even say that crazy. It just it's had a rough couple years, right? And a lot of people are looking for this one to bounce back. And long story short, someone dumped $8.8 million into the Intel 29 strike call options that expire on January 19th of 2024. These call options are in the money. They have some time, and it is a big dollar amount. When we look at like the max weekly chart for Intel, it's had a rough couple years to say the least, right? It has highs of around like just under $70 that it made back in like 2019, or I should say early 2020, and then again in 2021. And, now it's sitting at like $36. A couple months ago, this thing was at like $25. It's had a rough couple years for sure. And, actually, their all-time high, I missed that. Their all-time high was actually in, like, 2000, and it was actually around, like, $76. That's how much Intel has been struggling over the years. Like, while all these other big chip stocks have, broken their highs from the dot-com bubble, Intel has actually been stagnant, right? So that just goes to show you even more that they've been stuck in the mud quite a bit. But long story short, we have some big money betting that Intel is set for a pretty nice recovery. And I'll be honest, I do like this setup. It's running off of earnings as well, which is a pretty good thing. It's good when it like runs up off of a catalyst. Like if it was up 6.6% and there was no reason for that, I would be a little bit more skeptical. But, they're running with earnings, which is great. You have the big money jumping in. Anytime you see someone dump $8.8 million into a call option like this, it is nothing to ignore. For those of you who don't know how options work, essentially when you're buying calls like this, the higher Intel goes, I would normally say the more millions you'll make, but in this case it'd be the more tens of millions you'll make. So definitely an interesting trade. I like it, but I will emphasize that if you are going to follow this trade, it's going to take some time. Like, don't expect Intel to be up 20% tomorrow. Like, you got to give it some time. These options have until January of 2024, which, it's a couple months away, but it's nothing like too far out. It's not like the 2025 options that we've seen with some of these other stocks, but I definitely think Intel is a stock that everyone should be watching especially closely, not just for tomorrow or for this week, but over like the next couple of months and weeks. So keep that in mind. It's in a very unique position. It's pretty good for trading, and also, depending on how you look at it, it could be good for the long term as well. But yeah, if you guys are new to the channel and you liked today's video, destroy that subscribe button. Just absolutely destroy it. When you do, you'll see our videos recommended to you more often. And in every single video, we cover big money, multi-million-dollar hedge fund style trades in a nice and easy way. Sometimes our videos are kind of funny, sometimes they're not, but subscribe anyways. You'll see our videos recommended to you more often. I am pretty excited for this week. It is earnings season, baby, so let's go. We have a lot of exciting movement, a lot of big stocks reporting, And I'm excited, right? And there's no reason you shouldn't be excited for this market. We have huge companies reporting. If you're not excited when you see Apple, Amazon, AMD, PayPal, Shopify, and all these other stocks reporting, then there's something wrong with you. We have a great week ahead of us. I hope you guys are pumped up. Last but not least, I want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, which is ResDid805 in the Stocked Up YouTube comments. Thank you so much for all the support and kind words. Tom and I really appreciate you, and we appreciate all the rest of you that support us on a day-by-day basis. I hope you guys are ready for this week. It will be an exciting one, and let's crush it, guys. Thanks for watching.